year, Volvo made some changes to their version of perpetual motion. This policy of evolution rather than revolution has resulted in it becoming quite a good value for money package. It also means that when a customer goes into the showroom for a new car, they're not just getting a newer one, they're actually getting a better one.
Hey guys, Vin from NV Auto here. Just wanted to show you guys some of the ongoing projects we got here at the shop. Right now, you could see, I think you could see, got an 87 240 DL Volvo on its way to getting a Toyota 2JZ engine transplant and transmission. So have you guys seen any of our social media stuff or from a few years before? It's not the first 2J swap we've done here. Most recently, after doing the STI and the BRZ, we did I believe it's a 57 or 64 Chevy Bel Air with the 2J in it. And so, yeah, I guess this customer of ours came in and had this beautiful Volvo, and he had this dream to put a 2J in it. And so, let's put 2Js in everything. And I guess if anyone's wondering how to even go about something like this, you got to make sure the engine and the transmission that you're using is going to fit. Luckily, this transmission and this engine fits very well in this car. Just dimensionally speaking, taking measurements is very similar. When you're doing different things like putting a K engine, a Honda K engine in a rear-wheel drive, certain things change. Being that it's not designed to sit that way, but this is pretty straightforward swap. As you can see, we have our Volvo engine over here. All we do is pretty much pull out the engine, pull out the transmission, and we start taking measurements to see what fits and what's the best position to keep the shifter in place, what's the best engine position, if we need to lower the cross member. There's a lot of different things to figure out of how the engine will fit, but basically at the end of the day is make sure you cut out certain sections like we had to do here at the front here, and just make sure that the engine sits level, sits straight in the center, clearance for the prop shaft, clearance for removal of the engine and the transmission by itself, just a lot of things. So lots of measurements and lots of ways that this could go together. So as you can see, we have the engine and transmission kind of floating right now. Luckily, I was able to reuse the factory transmission mount. I just had to cut it and slot it, and then I was able to kind of let the transmission sit center on there, and kind of using that as a reference point, I was able to get the engine right up against the steering rack. And again, they're just trying to figure out all the clearance issues, and having it floating right now. So it's sort of sitting on some axle stands and kind of this engine crane here, trying to get into position, trying to figure out that the angle of the engine sits level with the rest of the car, making sure that the crank is in the center of the frame. So I know in the rear the transmission is centered. And basically, when you have the engine floating, you're able to start on making the engine mounts. And so basically, I was able to reuse the 2J engine mounts and have that bolted right to the factory subframe here. And I'm just currently in the middle of making the solid part of the mounts from the engine to the engine mount. And so I'll show you guys the engine mount, at least the one side at least, and then kind of you go from there. And here we got the right side of the engine mount done. They're drilled and ready to go on to the factory or the Toyota engine mount. Basically, just once you have the engine mounts on one side, then you just build it the rest of the way on the other side. So now we have our right side of the engine mount done. We could start working on the left side. At this point, because we're using the factory engine mounts, just gotta make sure that everything, all the angles still correct. If we have to make any adjustments, we're still able to at this point. And basically, once these engine mounts are done, we'll be able to lift up the car and then finish the transmission mount in the rear. And then from there, you kind of have your engine and your transmission seated properly. Then you can start working on everything else, from the intake, from the exhaust, and eventually even trying to figure out a way to get a Ford 8.8 rear diff in this too. So that should be a fun time. But fun times is what we have here at NV Auto. Anything you guys need done or want done, just call in and we could just make anything happen. Cool. I don't know if that was a good transition.